The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Hana stood up from her seat and grabbed her small bag. She took a deep breath. This was it. She was about to step onto an alien ship for the first time in her life. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in. It smelled strange, like metal and something sweet she could not name. Hana walked through the doorway and entered the Coalition vessel called the Silent Dawn. The corridor was wide and tall. The walls were smooth and gray. Lights ran along the ceiling in thin blue lines. Hana had studied pictures of alien ships, but seeing one in person was different. Everything felt too clean, too perfect, like a hospital that stretched forever. A tall creature waited for her at the end of the corridor. It had 4 arms and skin the color of old copper. Its eyes were small and black, set deep in a flat face. This was Captain Tarek, an Orvani. He was the leader of this ship. "You are the human," Tarek said. His voice was rough, like stones grinding together. "Yes, Captain. My name is Hana. Thank you for having me aboard." Tarek looked at her for a long moment. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. "The Coalition says I must accept you. So I accept you. But I do not understand why they send humans to my ship. Your species is young, weak. You have nothing to offer." Hana kept her face calm. She had expected this. "I will do my best to be useful, Captain." Tarek made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We will see. Follow me." He turned and walked down the corridor. Hana followed. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. She noticed that her steps were the only ones making noise. Tarek moved in complete silence despite his large size. They passed through several sections of the ship. Hana saw crew members of different species. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had too many eyes or too few limbs. They all stopped what they were doing to look at her. Most of their faces showed confusion. A few showed something like disgust. One alien stepped directly into their path. He was tall, even taller than Tarek. His body was covered in dark green scales that shimmered under the lights. His eyes were yellow with thin black slits. A ridge of bone ran from his forehead to the back of his skull. He looked down at Hana like she was an insect. "This is the human?" the scaled alien said. His voice was sharp and cold. "Vorik," Tarek said. "Move aside. I want to see it first." Vorik leaned closer to Hana. She could smell him now, a dry, dusty scent like desert rocks. So small, so soft. The Coalition truly has lost its mind. Hana met his gaze. She did not step back. "Hello, I am Hana." Vorik made a hissing sound. "It speaks. How amusing." He reached out with one clawed hand and poked her shoulder. "Hard. Soft meat. That is all humans are. Soft meat that somehow learned to build ships." "Vorik," Tarek warned. "I am simply greeting our new crew member, Captain." Vorik pulled his hand back. "I hope you survive your first week, little human." "I hope you survive your first week, little human. This ship is not a place for the weak." He stepped aside and walked away. His heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Tarek watched him go, then looked at Hana. "Vorik is our combat specialist. He is Kellen. His people value strength above all else. He will not respect you." "I understand," Hana said. "Do you?" Tarek's small eyes studied her. "The Kellen do not give respect. It must be taken from them by force. And you," he gestured at her body, "you cannot take anything from a Kellen." Hana said nothing. Tarek showed her to her quarters. The room was small but clean. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out into space. Stars drifted slowly past as the ship moved. "You will report to the security section tomorrow morning," Tarek said. "Try not to cause problems." He left without another word. Hannah sat on the bed. It was harder than she expected. She looked around the empty room and let out a long breath. Her communicator buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket and saw a message from Do-young back on Earth. How was the welcome? The message said, Hannah typed back, as expected. They think I am weak and useless. A few seconds later, Do-hyun replied, Good. Keep it that way. Observe. Report. Do not show them what you can do unless absolutely necessary. Understood. She put the communicator away and lay back on the bed. The ceiling was gray and featureless. Somewhere on this ship, Varric was probably telling others about the pathetic human who had come aboard. They would laugh. They would mock her. They would see her as nothing more than a curiosity, a strange little creature from a forgotten planet. That was fine. That was the plan. Humans had learned something important when they first made contact with the galaxy. The other species were old. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They had built great civilizations and formed powerful alliances. But they were also fragile. They had evolved on gentle worlds with calm weather and few predators. They had never needed to be strong. They had never needed to fight for survival every single day. Earth was different. Earth was hard. Earth was dangerous. And the humans who crawled out of that dangerous world were not like other species at all. But the galaxy did not need to know that yet. The galaxy was not ready to meet the real humanity. So Hannah would play her part. She would be small. She would be soft. She would be weak, until she could not be those things anymore. She closed her eyes and slept. Tomorrow would be a long day. 3 weeks passed on the Silent Dawn. Hannah learned her duties quickly. She patrolled the corridors, checked security systems, and wrote reports. It was simple work. Boring work. But she did it without complaint. The other crew members slowly got used to her presence. Most of them still ignored her, but the open hostility faded. They stopped staring when she walked past. They stopped whispering about her soft skin and strange eyes. She became part of the background, another piece of equipment on the ship. All except Varric. The Kellen warrior watched her constantly. He followed her through the corridors. He appeared at her training sessions. He sat across from her in the food hall and stared while she ate. His yellow eyes never showed anything but cold contempt. Hannah pretended not to notice. She kept her head down and did her work. But Varric was not a patient creature. One morning, Hannah entered the training bay for her usual exercise. The room was large and filled with equipment from a dozen different worlds. Weights of various sizes lined one wall. Combat dummies stood in rows along another. A fighting ring took up the center of the floor. Today, the room was not empty. Vorik stood in the middle of the fighting ring. Around him, a crowd of crew members had gathered. Hannah saw Tarek standing near the door with his 4 arms folded. She saw Lyra, the insect-like Mevari diplomat, watching with her many compound eyes. Everyone was looking at her. Ah, the human arrives, Varric said loudly. Come in, little creature. We have been waiting for you. Hannah stopped at the edge of the ring. What is this? A cultural exchange. Varric smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your species is new to the coalition. We know nothing about how humans fight. I thought you could show us. I am not a warrior, Hannah said. I am just a security officer. Varric laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly. Exactly my point. Humans do not produce warriors. Your species is famous for being weak. But surely you can demonstrate something? Even the weakest creature has some way to defend itself. Hannah looked around the room. Every face showed the same thing, curiosity mixed with amusement. They expected nothing from her. They wanted to see her fail. This was entertainment for them. I have no interest in fighting, she said. Of course you do not. Vorik jumped down from the ring and walked toward her. He moved like a predator, each step slow and deliberate. Because you know you would lose. Because you know that any species in this room could break you in half without effort. He stopped directly in front of her. He was almost 2 heads taller. His shadow fell over her like a dark cloud. But I am not asking you to fight me, he continued. I simply want you to show us what humans can do. Surely that is not too much to ask. Hana stayed silent. Vorik's eyes narrowed. He turned and walked back to the ring. From a table nearby, he picked up a weapon. It was a pistol, but not like any pistol from Earth. The barrel was long and thick, wrapped in coils of metal. Blue light glowed from vents along its side. This is a Railbolt pistol, Vorik announced to the crowd. It fires a magnetized projectile at hypersonic speed. One shot can punch through a starship wall. He aimed at a training dummy across the room and fired. The sound was like thunder. The dummy exploded into pieces. Metal fragments scattered across the floor. A hole appeared in the wall behind where the dummy had stood. The crowd murmured with appreciation. Vorik turned back to Hana. He held the pistol out toward her. Your turn. Show us what a human can do with a weapon like this. Hana did not move. No? Vorik tilted his head. You refuse a direct challenge? I refuse to play your game. Silence fell over the room. Vorik's scales seemed to darken with anger. His grip tightened on the pistol. You insult me, he said quietly. You insult every warrior in this room. You come onto our ship, eat our food, breathe our air, and you refuse to prove that you deserve to be here? Hana met his gaze. I do not need to prove anything to you. For a moment, nobody moved. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Then Vorik's face twisted into something ugly. Fine, he said. If you will not take the weapon, then I will give you a different kind of test. He raised the pistol and pointed it directly at Hana's chest. A gasp ran through the crowd. Lyra stepped forward, her wings buzzing with alarm. Vorik, this is madness. You cannot... Silence, Vorik snapped. He kept his eyes fixed on Hana. This is between me and the human. Captain Tarek made no move to stop him. His face was unreadable. Hana stood perfectly still. Her heart beat steady and slow. She looked at the glowing barrel of the pistol, then at Vorik's finger on the trigger. You will not shoot me, she said. Vorik's teeth flashed in a terrible grin. Will I not? A Kellen warrior never bluffs, little human. I am giving you one chance. Fight me. Prove you have some worth. Or I will fire this weapon, and everyone will see what humans truly are. Soft meat that dies easily. Hana thought about her mission. She thought about Do-hyun's orders. She thought about all the reasons she was supposed to stay hidden. Then she thought about how tired she was of being looked down upon. She relaxed her shoulders. She let her hands fall loose at her sides. Go ahead, she said calmly. Fire. Vorik's yellow eyes widened with surprise. Then they narrowed with cruel delight. As you wish, he said. He pulled the trigger. The Railbolt left the barrel at a speed too fast for eyes to follow. It crossed the distance between Vorik and Hana in less than a heartbeat. A normal person would not have time to blink. A normal person would not have time to think. A normal person would simply die. Hana was not a normal person. Her hand moved. It was not a slow movement. It was not a careful movement. It was a blur of motion so fast that it looked like her arm simply disappeared and reappeared in a new position. Her fingers closed around the Railbolt and knitter. The metal was white hot. It burned against her palm with a heat that would have melted steel. Steam rose from her skin. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Hana did not scream. She did not flinch. She did not even blink. The room was completely silent. Every creature stood frozen like statues. Their eyes were wide. Their mouths hung open. Some of them had stopped breathing. Vorik stared at the impossible scene before him. His yellow eyes were so wide that white showed all around them. The pistol trembled in his grip. His scales had turned pale. Almost gray. Hannah looked down at her closed fist. She could feel the railbolt pulsing with heat against her palm. It hurt. It hurt more than almost anything she had ever felt. But pain was an old friend to humans. Pain was something they had learned to ignore a long time ago. She opened her fingers slowly. The railbolt sat in her palm, glowing orange and red. Her skin was burned and blistered, but already she could feel her body working to repair the damage. By tomorrow, there would be nothing but a faint scar. She looked up at Vorik. The Kellen warrior had not moved. He seemed unable to move. His entire body was locked in place by shock and something that might have been fear. For the first time since Hannah had met him, he did not look dangerous. He looked like a child who had seen something from his nightmares come to life. Hannah began to walk toward him. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor. Each step echoed in the silent room. She walked past the scattered remains of the training dummy. She walked past crew members who pressed themselves against the walls to get away from her. She walked until she stood directly in front of Vorik, close enough to touch him. He was trembling. She could see it in the small movements of his scales. She could hear it in the rapid clicking of his claws. Against the pistol grip, Hannah reached out with her burned hand and took hold of his wrist. His scales felt cool and dry against her damaged skin. She lifted his hand gently, turned it palm up, and placed the still smoking railbolt into it. "You dropped this," she said. Her voice was calm, quiet, almost friendly. Vorik made a sound. It was not a word. It was not a growl or a hiss. It was a small, broken noise that came from somewhere deep in his throat. The pistol slipped from his other hand and clattered to the floor. Hannah let go of his wrist and stepped back. "If there are no more cultural exchanges," she said, "I would like to continue my training now." She turned and walked away from him. She walked past Captain Tarek, who was gripping the doorframe so hard that the metal had bent under his fingers. She walked past Lyra, whose compound eyes followed her with a mixture of awe and fear. She walked to the weights against the wall and began her normal routine as if nothing had happened. Behind her, chaos erupted. Voices exploded all at once. Crew members shouted questions at each other. Someone demanded to know if what they saw was real. Someone else called for a medic. Someone was crying. Captain Tarek bellowed for silence, but his voice cracked in the middle of the word. Vorik still had not moved from his spot. He stood with the cooling railbolt in his palm, staring at Hannah's back. His face showed no emotion now. It was blank, empty, like someone had reached inside his head and removed everything that made him who he was. Lyra approached him slowly, her wings folded tight against her back. "Vorik," she said gently. "Vorik, are you injured?" He did not answer. The railbolt finally went dark, all its heat spent. It was just a piece of metal now, twisted and blackened. Vorik looked down at it. His fingers curled around it tightly. "What is she?" He whispered. Lyra had no answer. Across the room, Hannah lifted a weight that was meant for species 3 times her size. She moved it easily, smoothly, without any sign of strain. Her face showed nothing but calm focus. The crew watched her in terrified silence. They had thought they knew what humans were. They had thought they understood. They had been wrong. Captain Tarek finally found his voice. "Everyone out," he ordered. "Now, training bay is closed. Return to your stations." The crew fled. They pushed and shoved against each other in their hurry to leave. Within seconds, the room was empty except for Tarek, Lyra, Vorik, and Hannah. Tarek walked toward Hannah. His steps were careful, like he was approaching a wild animal. "Human," he said. Hannah, I need you to explain what just happened. Hannah set down the weight. She turned to face him. Her burned hand was already healing, the blisters shrinking, new skin forming over the wounds. You saw what happened, she said. I saw something impossible. Tarek's voice was rough. No species in the galaxy can do what you just did. The fastest reaction time belongs to the Kellen at 0.4 seconds. Navari can process at 0.3. That bolt traveled the distance in 0.02 seconds. You should be dead. Hannah looked at him calmly. And yet I am not. How? The word was almost a demand. How is this possible? What are you? Hannah was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Vark, still frozen in place. She looked at Lyra, trembling with barely contained curiosity. She looked at Tarek, whose 4 hands were clenched into fists. I am human, she said finally. That is all I have ever been. She walked past them and out of the training bay. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Captain Tarek found Hannah in her quarters 2 hours later. She was sitting on her bed, wrapping a bandage around her healing hand. The door opened without warning, and Tarek stepped inside. His 4 arms were folded across his chest. His small eyes burned with intensity. We need to talk, he said. It was not a request. Hannah nodded slowly. I expected you would come. Tarek closed the door behind him. He did not sit down. He stood with his back against the wall, keeping distance between them. I have served in the Coalition for 37 years. I have seen things that would break the minds of lesser creatures. I have fought in wars, survived disasters, and watched stars die. He paused. Nothing has ever frightened me the way you frighten me right now. Hannah continued wrapping her hand. I am sorry. I do not want your apology. I want the truth. Tarek's voice was hard. What are humans? What are you really? Because the species I read about in Coalition files is not what I saw in that training bay. Hannah tied off the bandage and set her hands in her lap. She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, she looked up at Tarek. Have you ever heard of a death world, Captain? Tarek's expression changed. Something flickered across his face. Something that looked like understanding mixed with horror. Death worlds are legends. Stories that elder species tell to frighten children. Planets so dangerous that nothing could survive them. They are not legends, Hannah said. They are real. And Earth is one of them. She stood up and walked to the window. Stars drifted past, cold and distant. She watched them while she spoke. When humans first made contact with the galaxy, we were shocked. We expected aliens to be like us, strong, fast, tough, dangerous. Instead, we found creatures who had evolved on worlds of endless summer. Worlds with no predators. Worlds where the weather was always gentle and the food grew everywhere. She turned to face Tarek. Your ancestors never had to fight for survival, Captain. They never had to run from creatures that wanted to eat them. They never had to endure burning heat or freezing cold or storms that could level cities. They evolved in paradise. Tarek said nothing. His face had gone very still. Earth is not paradise, Hannah continued. Earth is a world of extremes. The gravity is strong, so our bones grew dense and our muscles grew powerful. The weather is violent, so our bodies learned to adapt to anything. Predators hunted us for millions of years, so we became faster and stronger than anything that tried to kill us. She held up her bandaged hand. Our bodies heal quickly because on Earth, the injured died. Our senses are sharp because on Earth, the unaware died. Our minds can push through pain and fear because on Earth, those who could not push through died. She let her hand fall. We are not soft, Captain. We are not weak. We are survivors of a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. and we became something that could not be killed. Tarek's voice came out rough and low. Then why pretend? Why hide? Hannah walked back to her bed and sat down. She looked tired suddenly, like carrying this secret had been a heavy weight. Because we understood something when we met the galaxy. We understood that if we showed our true nature, we would be seen as monsters, predators, weapons. She shook her head. We did not want that. We wanted to join the coalition as friends and partners. We wanted to earn our place through kindness and cooperation, not through fear. So you played weak. We played careful. Hannah's eyes met his. Humans are dangerous, Captain. More dangerous than you can imagine. But we are also capable of great kindness, great love, great sacrifice. We wanted the galaxy to see that side of us first. We wanted to prove that we could be trusted before we revealed what we truly are. Tarek was silent for a long time. His four hands moved restlessly, opening and closing. Finally, he spoke. Vorik has not left his quarters since the incident. He has not eaten. He has not spoken to anyone. I believe his mind is struggling to accept what happened. Hannah felt a pang of guilt. I did not want to hurt him. You did not hurt him. You destroyed his understanding of the universe. Tarek moved away from the wall. He walked to the window and stood where Hannah had stood. The Kellen believe they are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Vorik has won every fight he has ever been in. He has killed creatures twice his size. And today, a small human woman caught a railbolt with her bare hand and handed it back to him like it was nothing. He turned to look at her. You did not just defeat him, Hannah. You showed him that everything he believed about himself was a lie. Hannah lowered her head. I know. Why did you do it? You could have dodged. You could have let him miss. You did not have to catch the bolt. Hannah thought about the question. She thought about all the weeks of being mocked and ignored. She thought about Vorik's contempt, his cruelty, his absolute certainty that she was worthless. I was tired, she admitted. Tired of pretending. Tired of being looked down upon. I made a mistake. I let my pride control me instead of my mission. Tarek made a sound that might have been a laugh. Pride is not unknown to me. It is a weakness shared by all creatures who think themselves strong. He turned fully to face her. But now we have a problem. The crew saw what you did. They will talk. Word will spread. Hannah nodded. I know. I have already reported to my handler on Earth. The decision about what to do next is not mine to make. And what will Earth decide? Hannah was quiet. Then she said, I do not know. Perhaps they will recall me. Perhaps they will decide the time for hiding is over. She looked at Tarek. What would you prefer, Captain? Tarek considered the question. His face was thoughtful, the fear from earlier fading into something more complex. I think, he said slowly, I would like to know more. I would like to understand what humans truly are, not just the face you show to the galaxy. He extended one of his four hands toward her. And I think I would like you to stay on my ship. If you are willing. Hannah looked at his hand. She thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. Then she reached out and took it. I am willing, she said for the first time since she had boarded the Silent Dawn. She felt like she might finally belong. The attack came without warning. Hannah was in the food hall when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed along the walls. The ship shook as something slammed into its hull. Crew members jumped from their seats and ran toward their emergency stations. Captain Tarek's voice boomed through the speakers. All hands to battle positions. We are under attack by Vorn raiders. Multiple ships incoming. This is not a drill. Hannah dropped her food and ran. The Vorn were known throughout the galaxy as the cruelest of all pirates. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They attacked, killed everyone aboard, and stripped the ships for parts. Meeting Vorn raiders meant death for most species. The Silent Dawn rocked again as more impacts hit its shields. Hana reached the security station and found chaos. Officers were shouting at each other. Screens showed enemy ships surrounding them on all sides. "How many?" Hana demanded. "7 ships," an officer answered. His voice was shaking. "They came out of nowhere. Our shields are failing. They will board us within minutes." Hana looked at the screens. The Vorn ships were ugly things, covered in spikes and weapons. They moved like predators circling wounded prey. She could already see boarding pods being launched toward the Silent Dawn. "Where's Captain Tarek?" she asked. "Bridge. He is trying to call for help, but we are too far from any coalition stations." Hana made a decision. She grabbed the communicator and spoke into it. "Captain, this is Hana. What are your orders?" Tarek's voice came back, strained and tired. "We cannot win this fight. I am ordering evacuation. All crew to escape pods. No." The word came out flat and hard. Everyone in the security station turned to look at Hana. "What did you say?" Tarek asked. "I said no, Captain. The Vorn will shoot down the escape pods. You know this. Evacuation means death." Hana's grip tightened on the communicator. "Let me handle this." There was silence on the other end. Then Tarek's voice came back, quieter now. "Hana, there are dozens of Vorn on those boarding pods. They are warriors bred for killing. Even you cannot." "Captain." Hana's voice was calm, certain. "You asked what humans truly are. Let me show you." Another long pause. Then Tarek spoke. "All crew, this is the captain. New orders. Fall back to the intersections. Do not engage the borders. Seal all bulkheads behind you." He paused. "And stay away from the human." Hana dropped the communicator and started walking toward the outer hull. The first boarding pod had already cut through the wall. Vorn warriors poured into the corridor, big and brutal creatures with gray skin and toothed teeth. They carried weapons covered in dried blood. They screamed battle cries that echoed through the ship. They saw Hana standing alone at the end of the corridor. The lead Vorn laughed. It was a wet, ugly sound. "One little creature comes to greet us. How kind. Kill it." 3 Vorn charged at her. Hana did not run. She did not hide. She moved. Her first punch hit the lead Vorn in the chest. The sound was like a bomb going off. The creature flew backward, crashing into his comrades and knocking them all to the ground. Her second punch caught another Vorn in the face, breaking bone and sending teeth scattering across the floor. The remaining Vorn stopped laughing. Hana was on them before they could react. She moved faster than their eyes could follow. She hit harder than anything they had ever faced. She broke their weapons, shattered their armor, and put them down one by one. In 30 seconds, the boarding party was finished. Bodies lay everywhere. Some were unconscious. Some would never wake up. Hana stood in the middle of the carnage, breathing slowly. Her fists were covered in alien blood. Her eyes were cold and focused. More Vorn were coming. She could hear them cutting through the hull in other sections of the ship. Good. She went to meet them. The crew watched through security cameras as Hana moved through the ship like a force of nature. She did not stop. She did not hesitate. Every Vorn that faced her went down. Some she threw through walls. Some she struck so hard their weapons bent around her fists. Some she simply stared at until they ran away screaming. In the bridge, Captain Tarek watched with his mouth hanging open. Beside him, Lyra recorded everything on her diplomatic equipment. Her wings buzzed with nervous energy. "This is impossible," she whispered. This should not be possible. In his quarters, Vorik had finally left his bed. He stood in front of his own screen, watching the small human tear through battle-hardened Vorn warriors like they were made of paper. His hands were shaking. "That is what she is," he said to himself. "That is what humans are." The last Vorn raider tried to run back to his boarding pod. Hana caught him by the collar and lifted him off the ground with one hand. He screamed and kicked and clawed at her arm, but she did not move. "Send a message to your fleet," she said. Her voice was quiet and terrifying. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth protects its allies. And tell them that if they ever attack a coalition ship again, we will come for them." She threw him into the boarding pod and sealed the hatch behind him. The pod launched back toward the Vorn fleet. Minutes later, all 7 enemy ships turned and jumped away into hyperspace. Hana stood in the ruined corridor, surrounded by the aftermath of battle. She looked up at the nearest camera. Her face was calm, but her eyes held something fierce and proud. "Captain," she said, "the threat has been neutralized. You may want to send repair crews to the outer sections." The entire crew cheered. Later, after the wounded were treated and the damage was assessed, Hana sat alone in her quarters. Her hands were bandaged again, and her body ached in ways that would take hours to heal. But she did not mind. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Duhyandat. She opened it and typed a report. "Cover is blown. Revealed capabilities during combat. Vorn raiding fleet repelled. Crew and ship intact. Awaiting orders." Dahyun's reply came quickly. "Well done. Orders from Earth. Remain on assignment. Coalition has requested more humans for integration program. Your demonstration has been noted." Hana smiled faintly. Another message appeared. "It seems the galaxy is ready to meet us after all. Good work, Hana. Humanity is proud of you." A knock came at her door. She opened it to find Vorik standing outside. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone from his posture. His yellow eyes held something she had never seen in them before: respect. "I was wrong about you," he said. The words seemed to pain him. "I was wrong about humans." Hana nodded. "You were." Vorik straightened. He pressed his fist against his chest in the Kellen salute of warriors. "I would be honored to fight beside you, Hana of Earth, if you will have me." Hana considered him. Then she extended her hand in the human way. "I will have you," she said. "Welcome to the Alliance, Vorik." He took her hand and something new began. On the bridge, Captain Tarek sent a message to Coalition Command. It contained Lyra's recordings and a simple request: send more humans. As many as you can spare. The galaxy was about to change, and Earth was finally coming home.